Live.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Task Force to Study Marine Vessels meeting. I'd like to kick it off by first, again, thanking you for your time. I've seen the work that's already been done, and I know it's pretty involved, so thanks again for all that you're doing. First order of business, I'd like to share my screen real quick. Everybody see that okay?
We can.
It's just the minutes, and I'd like to, if everyone is good with those minutes, I'd like to get those approved so we can post them from last meeting. I do realize that we've got some membership issues to work out as far as who's actually on the committee, and we'll work through those. I just have them as non-attending on this list, but we will work that out.
Tim, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'll second that.
All right. Thank you very much.
Any objections? Anybody?
Not for me.
All right. And then second order of business is to do a roll call. And what I'd like to do, again, with your permission, we've got a great list already on here of panelists and attendees. Again, to expedite and to save some time instead of calling everybody's names, I will record those during this meeting, and I'll just look for any alibis and note them on the minutes for this meeting. And if I don't hear any objections to that.
No objections from me.
No.
All right. At that point, I'd like to turn it over to Guy. I know you got a lot to do. And again, thanks for your time. And we are here ready for tasking.
All right. I'm going to share my screen to do the whole screen here. Hopefully that will work. Okay. You should see a spreadsheet in front of you. And I just want to briefly explain how we approached the signed document that was given by the city. And we basically went through the full document. And if you go on, I'll give you the right name, the R4624, worth reading, obviously, but starting page basically 4, we took every single item that was on the list, and I apologize, page 5, and converted them into tasks in order to be able to identify specifically what the city asked us to document, research, and provide them more information to make their own decisions in that regard. And so that's where the task list that you received came from. We then took the list of members or member types and did our best to associate things. Rod, Mary, and Jane, we got together. One of us did some of the work, and we reviewed it, all 4 of us. And that is what we came up with, or what we think might be how the task could be addressed. It does not mean that it should be limited only to those individual. Anybody should feel free to comment or add items to the tasks. Before we open it up for discussion, our intent is to keep all submissions and documents for each task, create a Word document, maybe that collects all those, or whichever way we have it on a directly level. And then we'll try to summarize each task best we can. And from there, prepare a presentation for the City Council. All of that will be made available to everyone in this group, and probably publicly. They'll go through the city to make that happen. Our goal today, and there's a lot of tasks, is just to go through these tasks and ask for a leader that would then try to collect and submit information about each task and submit it to us, and then we'll put it in a area that maybe all of us can view. I have to discuss that with the city. So our main goal is to have a collaborative effort from all of us with a leader for each task and to have people try to push things as fast as we can. To say the least, this is daunting from my perspective, given the volume that I saw what was requested. And we can all do the best we can given the timeline that we have. So my ask, and I think Rod's ask, is to try to submit everything we can by the next meeting, which is on June 11th, and try to get as much information as we can, and then start collating and form resulting documents from that collection. Rod, do you want to add anything to what I have said?
No, I think, Guy, thank you for putting this together in a way that made sense, because as Guy suggested, there's a lot of information being requested, and what we thought we'd do in a way to try and include everybody in this analysis is to break these things down as we've done with task 1, 2, and 3. Again, that's right from the resolution that the city council handed us, and we tried to assemble the groups that had the most impact on that area or on that task. And it's our hope today that we'll assign a team leader for that particular task and let you guys form subcommittees and try and come up with at least a brief that will be ready for discussion on the June meeting, so that we can start to collate this information and put it in a form that can be presented to the city council. And these questions and answers, in my opinion, is just the precursor to trying to help the council in understanding the maritime industry and everything that has to do with houseboats, house barges, liveaboards, commercial yachts, and recreational yachts. So there's a lot of information to go over, and it's our job to try and put it in a form that the council can understand and then make a well-informed decision. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Guy, and we'll just go through these tasks, I think, and try and get a discussion going, and try and get through this with the hour that we have. Guy, you're muted.
Yeah, I want to try to open just for a few minutes to anyone that wishes to ask questions and do have some further information on how we're approaching it. That's number one. And number two, I would also say if we can be concise and remember that this is being, one, recorded, and number two, I found out that there was a whole lot more people who were on these particular cameras here, and that there's a whole bunch of people that were watching us last time. So just as a reminder that seems to be a fair amount of interest that we've heard through the grapevine, that other people wanted to express their opinion as well. So anybody has any concerns or things they want to raise at this time?
So Guy, just in terms of the people that are in charge of the task on these particular items, how will they then recruit other people to assist them?
Right. So I'm happy to be open for suggestion to that. So the task force, somebody needs to close as a feedback. So I don't know who it is. Jay, that might be on your end.
I think it is. Apologies.
No problem. I'll mute you. I think. Well, if you can mute yourself. Yep, I think it's gone. Rick, we can either open it do a public meeting where people can come in, or I'm happy to provide my email, or you can provide your email. We can put it out in the results of the minutes of this meeting, and we can then provide a means by people can sending things in, and or we can create a public meeting if we want to do so. I would rather have things in writing. Because that way we can include them in our report to the thing. Rick, I believe you're on the Maritime Board.
Yes, I mean, so there's a couple of things that definitely suggest themselves to that. But I was perhaps, and therefore I don't know that they would need a lot of assistance, but I was just thinking the tasks that say economic analysis, that could be quite a job. So if one is the head of the task, there I can't see one person doing that themselves.
Right. So let me address maybe what you just said there on task 2 that hopefully all of you can see on my screen. Our intent here for task 2 is to involve all the folks that are right here. Okay. The intent was not to choose one person and have that person be the only person working on this. The intent was just to have a leader, to be the central person collecting from these various groups. And at least we have, in this case, I have to count obviously how many people are here, but that people at least would do things here. All of us on this particular meeting have all each other's email address, and I on purpose in this spreadsheet put in all the emails. I'm happy to send an email list out to everyone. And if anybody wants, once I will publish after this meeting, the same task list with the main leader that we select in this meeting. So within this particular group, it should not be a problem to touch each other. I don't know what the city recommends in regards to public and seeking input from elsewhere. I will put something out and think about it through the meeting, and I'll come up with something by the end of the meeting to allow the public to make comments as well. Does that answer your question, Rick?
Sorry, excuse me. Yes, it did answer it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, we're going to go ahead and try to come up with a start with task 1 and see if we want to get a leader in there. I did hear from Lex, and he might be on, might not be on a call. I don't have the list in front of me because I'm sharing now, that he's now retired and lives half the time in another state, but he's happy to help where he can. I wasn't going to reach out. I reached out to Tim, but we haven't had a chance to connect. So anybody wants to lead this? Trevor, I don't know if you're on the call.
I don't think Guy, I don't think Lex or Trevor's on the call.
We'll
yeah.
pass on that.
Lex is here.
Oh,
Okay.
great.
Hey, Rod.
Hey, Lex, how are you?
Good.
Well, I'll just throw it out to you. Do you want to take on task 1? I know that you indicated that you were kind of had 1 foot in and 1 foot out, and then it's fine. Declare now that you want out, and then we'll excuse you, and then we'll go on. If you want in, then we could sure use your comments, even though it'll all be electronic and stuff. I know I would certainly appreciate that. You've always been very, very helpful for me and in the various committees that you and I have both served on.
Yeah, no, Rod, I appreciate that. As I told Guy, I live in Vermont sort of from end of April to the 1st of November, but I'm still back and forth a little bit. I'm flattered to be included and happy to help. I think it would be difficult for me to lead something, but I'm happy to be a resource beyond the committee, and I think I could provide some feedback. And one thing, Rod, which you may remember, and it might act at least as a slight, it's sort of as a guide for, can't really tell if it's Task Force 1 or 2, but when I was on the Maritime Industry Advisory Board, county executive appointed board, we did a study with the county sponsored a study with the SAGE group, and I can send it to whoever I should. The maritime industry is a driver of economic recovery and middle class formation in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. It was a sort of a post-COVID thing, but it has a lot of data and stuff, at least related to the county, but it might serve as sort of a guide in some respects for what some of these groups, particularly with the economic impact, want to do. I think there's some good stuff in it. You know, it's
Right.
the city.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I know when somebody says conduct an economic analysis, it's like, holy crap, people get paid thousands of dollars for that. And we're a volunteer committee. So I think that's an excellent idea to bring that to the table, and we will sort of mine the data from that that's relevant to the city of Annapolis and present that in a more sort of summary form than the detail that is required with a true economic analysis. I'm not sure that's what the council members meant for this task force to produce.
Yeah,
But
no, I
think
get
we
that.
can draw from that, and that's exactly why, we had considered having your group on there, as well as B and C and I, all contributing to this in a subcommittee group in a separate forum that we could get together, whether it's another Zoom call or whatever, and just start to talk about that and hash those things out. That's exactly how we see it going.
Yep, that sounds great. I just don't think I'm in it.
And Lex, I'm not sure what Trevor's involvement is, because you and Trevor were representing the maritime industry. But Guy, I would like to suggest that for task 1, that maybe we include the marina owner group, which is I, to assist with Lex on task 1, so we can just get through that, because I think we're well suited to handle that, and we can just start working down the list here. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Thanks, Ron.
And if I might add, just as it relates to an economic analysis, I don't know if the city did an analysis of the impact of Airbnbs on the city of Annapolis, but it's obviously adjacent to some of the issues that come up in having houseboats, barges. So I like your idea, Rod, of and Lex, of kind of leveraging off of work that's already been done. So I might suggest we look for that report as well.
But that's exactly what I was saying, Rick, is like, for me, that they can't possibly be looking for a report that is on par with Sage Consulting, and that, we pay, $50,000 or $60,000 or more for that sort of data mining. So I think, to summarize the opinions of the marina owners and using the data that's already been presented to the county, as Lex suggested, we'll be able to answer that in a form that will be good information for the council members.
Yep, very good.
And the fact that we added Group I, marina property owners, does that give me, you, Rod, Jeff, or Marcellus, a inkling on somebody who wants to lead this group?
Do we have Marcellus and Jeff on the call?
Yeah, this is Marcellus. I'm on.
Marcellus, do you want to take that lead role?
I would not.
Okay. Okay. I'll take that lead role on task 1, working with Lex and Jeff and Marcellus. Is Jeff on? I don't see Jeff anywhere. Is Jeff on the Zoom call? Jeff Durkin?
I don't see his name.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Well, that's fine, and I'll take the lead on task 1.
All right, we're going to go to task 2. Probably somewhat related to that. Anybody else wants to take that, or you want to lump that in with the other one?
Well, we have a lot more members there in task 2, right?
Yep. So I'm going to call some names out, and we need a little help here. We have another 25 or so to go through. So Larry Romano and Ann Wallace-White, Alan Miller, Marcellus Rod, Jeff Turkin, Lex again, or Trevor, but Trevor don't think he's here. Any one of you, remember, the leading is not necessarily you doing all of the work, but more to get a group together, have a conversation, and then get input from those folks.
Hey, Guy, this is Alan Miller. I was kind of waiting to take the lead on task 3 because it's right in my wheelhouse of what I do now at my current job. So if it helps, I'll take task 3.
Okay, that is very useful. Appreciate it. I go by Guy, by the way. I make it complicated. That's what my mama called me. I was born and raised in Belgium. That way it makes it easy for everyone.
Yeah, that's where my
on
dogs are from. Thank you, Guy.
Thank you. You're welcome. Anybody on task 2? If not, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say pass on those, and we'll try to do individual solicitation on some of those after the fact, and that way we can continue, at least get going where maybe other people have already decided they can help in a particular area. I'm going to put pass on it right here because I'm looking at the time. I want to make sure we get through all them. Task 3, Alan, thank you for picking that up. All right. So on task 4, I want to make a comment before we get somebody here. There was a reference in the resolution about this particular document with a sales slip tax, et cetera, et cetera. We have clarified that that particular item was from a document, I believe it's at DNR, that it was, maybe not, but anyway, it's no longer a law. It's not a law. It never passed a law. That was just brought in as a reference in that regard. And so it was just to take a look at the fact that should or should we not charge or have a slip tax put in place in that particular end. Anybody wants to take this on, task 04? I have a lot of, I'm going to come back.
You can put me down if nobody wants it. Mary.
Okay, Mary. Okay. Some of these are pretty obvious and can be a short answer. The next one, we do have a list on the slips that was done, I believe, by the harbor master. It might still be reviewed on that particular end and make sure completed and then answer the question. 05.
Yeah, so
any
Guy,
takers?
Guy, I can do that, and it may make sense. 6 seems to be pretty closely associated with that. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe
Yes, it
so.
is.
Yeah. So
Yes.
if you want to, I'd be willing to take on those 2.
Okay, and I'll send you the list that I got on the harbor master shared drive that we have on this, Rick, and then I'll
Okay.
send it to the group, and that way you'll have what they have, and I have some comments on them as well.
Very good.
Number 7, recommendations for tracking, regulating liveaboards, include registration. Now, there's a little bit of a thing there, Mary. This is the one, right?
That's right. And while we're on this call, I heard back from Cynthia at the city who is putting on the city website on the law code site the updated bill
So
that strikes
this one is no longer necessary,
yeah.
correct? All right, so I'm
You got it,
striking
yeah.
that. That one was quick. All right, number 8. Review city rules regarding commercial charter boats in city waters and recommend updates, include use of commercial and residential vessels as a charter. Anybody wants to take that one on?
I'll take that. This is
Marcellus?
Marcellus. Yes.
Yeah, that one, thank you. Recommendations on charter boats says short-term rentals. I'll make a small comment on that. The word charter boats here might not be exactly right. That it's probably a little broader given the definition was done in the resolution. Any takers on 09?
Hey, Guy, Lex here. Just is it possible to just say that's a stupid idea and not do it?
I mean, think,
develop
Mike
recommendations.
Lyles.
Why do we need recommendations, and why should we bother to develop them? I mean,
Yeah, this is Mike Lyles, city attorney. I think this particular task evidences a misunderstanding at the council level between what is actually going on that prefaced all of this activity. Charter boats are legal. Short-term rentals on vessels are right now not legal. So I don't think the two kind of go together. So there
Okay.
may need to be some defining there, because right now you can charter a boat. But I don't think that those two terms go together. So there may be some thought about that. But I agree, if it's a non-starter, a non-recommendation, or they don't understand what's going on, that's an equally appropriate answer to any of these tasks.
But Michael,
Yeah,
excuse me.
thanks for
I
that
thought,
clarification.
yeah, although I thought the issue was that some people were claiming basically an Airbnb, that the boat was being chartered but sitting at the dock and never going out. So is that why they phrased it that way? Not that they thought they had purview over charter boats, but that the kind of the charter boat exception was being used to justify basically residential vessels.
Right. That reason was never brought up by the
Okay.
people that got the tickets. They never said this is a charter. They just said, I own it and I can do what I want to do.
Gotcha.
Right. So, but it's clear that the code specifically prohibited the kind of overnight stays in things that were not boats. If you have a boat, you can stay on a boat overnight. Two, charging for that as a commercial business is prohibited currently under the code. And so if you do that even as a short term or long term or lease, there may be some issues. Some of that overlaps, but it's definitely not what the issue was here. This was double-decker houses that happened to be floating.
Michael, are you okay if we script some of what you said and put that into our response under your name? Is that okay for you that we do that?
That's fine.
And then we can skip this one for now. And then if that's okay, and if somebody disagrees, they can voice their opinion on this. Michael, is that okay? We'll kind of look at the recording and we'll put it in here. And then I don't think we need to look into this, as I suspect what you're saying here at this time, given the way it's more. Because a charter boat is a charter boat, and we had a conversation internally with the few that already looked at this. Charter boats is a known business, and they go out and they do their thing. And I think the charter boat is, for example, if you go charter in the BVI Islands, or you can even charter on the Chesapeake, as we know, on the South River, and even in the city. But that the short-term rental is independent of this, and that's being addressed elsewhere, I believe, as well. So are you okay that we do it this way? Any objection by anyone?
Nope.
Hi, this is Jackie Giles. This is Jackie Giles from the city. I just want to jump in here and say, I suggest that perhaps we need some definitions of what a charter boat is.
Yes,
I think some of the this question or task arose from the fact that the council does not understand what a charter boat is and the requirements around captaining, et cetera, a charter boat. So I think an explanation of that would be helpful in this section.
Okay, so what I will do is I'm going to say clarify definitions, because they are in the resolution, and it's not just that one, but there's a couple of the one. There's the houseboat versus the house barge, and we need to be maybe a little more precise on that. And the same problem exists in the city regulation 15.14, where the house barge is defined with dimensions, but not necessarily. It's hard to make a difference between the houseboat and the house barge. We will do our best maybe to come up with definitions. We'll have some people to get involved and what we believe the definition should be. And then on the legal side, on your end, you can then put this into law once the city council wants to review that. I think it would be good to define charter boats, define houseboat. If you look at large what a houseboat is in the industry, mostly done in lakes, etc., where people go run around in navigable houseboat. Go ahead. Yes, Jackie.
Anywhere in your responses that you feel there needs to be a definition of some kind, please feel free to do that. I think a lot of these many tasks come from the fact that council does not understand the maritime industry. Some of them do not. So I think that'll be very helpful to them, and they will appreciate it, and it'll make a much better report. Thank you.
I made a note on the side of that, and we'll make sure that as we comb through this, we will do that. Any other comments on task 9?
No, but Guy, if I could, I think that we treat task 10 the same as 9 and wrap that all into one response, either from the leadership here or in a form that we develop. But I think that the same thing is consistent with task 10.
Okay. Any objections? I'm making notes as I go because by the time I get to the bottom, I will have forgotten. I've gotten to the right page where some of these things don't stick as well as they used to. Task number 11, water quality discharge gray water into city waters and recommended solutions. Any takers?
This is Mike Lyles again. Again, this is probably a little confusing. Dumping anything into the water is illegal if it's not water. So if it's gray, brown, black, blue, you can't do it. So I'm not really sure what the council's after in this one, but this may end up being very short answer.
Yeah, so I can give you maybe a little piece here that might help you. In our world, the gray water is different from black water and regular water, and I'll tell you what they are. So black water is basically toilets and whatever is happening there. And gray water is if you do your dishes, they usually go overboard in the boating industry. That's what's defined as gray water. Coming back to Jackie's comment about definitions, Michael. So gray water is if I do my dishes, that it ends up in the water. I believe in the United States, with a very few exceptions, gray water goes wherever you are as a boat, and there's no regulations in place for that. So we can address it that way. In Europe, boats are required to have a gray water tank that needs to be processed independently. For us to tackle that here, I think is beyond the scope of what we're doing here. If you are agreeing with that from that end. So I think a definition is needed here. And are you okay that we take what you said and then also we don't need to do a whole lot more on it unless some of the
Yes.
watershed folks and the Creek Association wants to help with this? That's my interpretation of this. Happy to
yeah.
hear anybody. Go ahead.
Again, this may be, I don't know all the deliberations that the council had, but I suspect there's an issue of you go down a slippery slope in terms of what a charter is, and then someone stretches the definition of a charter, has people that are doing short-term stays, and then what happens with the discharge. And so I think understanding how much might be pumped out, if you will, because people probably maybe I don't want to speak for liverboards, but anyway, I suspect some people don't follow that. So, what is the scope of the problem? And in an extreme, would the city provide pump out services the same way that they pick up garbage? So, I think it's a topic that's worth touching upon. And if I might say, I know we dispatched it earlier in terms of the liveaboard issue, but I mean, do we even know how many liveaboards there might be in the city? We're doing an itemization of the number of slips, but I think how many liveaboards there are is something of interest, and I don't know if that's been done. So it all kind of chains together then in terms of liveaboards. And then, pumping out water, be it gray water or black water.
Mary, you want to address that? I know we've
Well,
talked
yes.
about.
Yeah, thank you. And I had my hand up because I just wanted to, again, make it clear that task 11 is just focused on the gray water. So task 12 is the one that, and others that are focused on the sewage more. So it's sort of two different things here. Yep. And also I want to say to Michael, gray water can also, some people also define it as even when you wash your boat and the runoff that happens with the soap and things that recreational boaters do as well. So it can really become a very big, gray water can become a large issue. Maybe even, like I said, larger than we want to tackle, although it is listed in the bill. So I just kind of wanted to make that.
Let me just say this. that the city code prevents or prohibits these kinds of discharges without a permit. So you want to take a look at Title 16.16, 0.090 and after, to see if there are if the prohibitions I'm reading apply to boats.
Can
Don't
you
know if
repeat the
that's the
code?
case.
Could you repeat the code
It's
number, please?
16.16, 0.080 and after.
Thank you.
It's in that general section, because I'm reading about prohibited discharges into city waters. But there's several sections, and I don't know whether it applies to boats. You may have a different kind of state or federal allowance for this, but the city kind of takes all of this and lumps it together, which may be an improper way to do it. But I would say
Okay.
review the city code with respect to discharging in city waters and see if there's some impact there on what you're doing.
But Michael, what I would say is the difference between theory and reality. If it turns out, I see it's prohibited, and we could say, well, there's nothing really to discuss here. But if people regularly ignore that, then if you approved all sorts of overnight rentals or something, if that was the outcome of this, then maybe you have a big sewage issue, or maybe you don't have one, even if that's the case. So I just ask others on the task force. These are kind of those soft areas where our opinions may be informative, even if they're not exactly consistent with code.
Yeah. So let's
And I
hold
would say
for a
that-
sec. Go
And I
ahead.
would say that section is 16.16.050 and everything below it.
I
Hold
would
on,
also
hold on.
ask
Okay,
if,
hold
oh
on,
no, go
hold
ahead.
on,
Sorry. Yeah,
hold on.
go ahead.
Yeah, I want to make sure Jesse had his hand up. I want to make sure we give him time, and then Mary can come back on that.
Thanks, Guy. So I'm happy to try and help with this task, but it occurs to me that this is going to have to be after the number of slips is calculated and the number of potential house barges that might come into the city is
Yes.
determined, because obviously the impact to water quality will be dependent on the volume of gray water which might be generated, which is going to be dependent on the number of slips. So
Yeah, and I think even we have spoken somewhat about it. Number one, we do have a list of slips for you, so I can send you that. And we have an initial estimate, which we want to keep maybe now until it's verified on the liveaboards. So it will give you a sense of what we have. And I think what you're saying is, I think that's exactly what needs to be said, is that the impact of those things need to be done. It's impossible in the 30 or so days that we have that we come up with all of these answers. And if some of these tasks need to be revisited afterwards, I think that's the way things ought to be done. But if that could already be worded, Jesse, that would be very useful, because there's so many of these things that for me, it's hard to take it all on as one person.
yeah, I'm happy to help with it, and I think that the form that this determination will take will have to be somewhat speculative, and
That is fine.
might result in, okay, here are sections of the code which address this issue, which might be revised to try and be protective of water quality. But we're never going to, as you noted, be able to say like, yeah, we can realistically expect X pounds of all these different kinds of pollutants or anything like that.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen, and I think Rod has suggested that what we write might start another set of other tasks that will be done. I think Michael was referring to that as well, is that when we write certain things up, this needs to be clarified. I don't think we need to clarify everything. It might have to be taken up by legal at the city or elsewhere. Are you willing to lead this task 11, Jesse? Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna, for the interest of time, Dan? Oh, it's Jay. Sorry, go ahead. You're muted, Jay.
Okay, trying again. I'd like to throw my name in to help on that a little bit. One option might be to just do it per boat or per slip or something, and then we can sort of sidestep how many.
Do
We don't
you
have
want
to
to
guess
take
how many
on,
there are.
do you want to take
Um,
on 12, for example, and then work with the group as
I-
well on 11?
Sure, they overlap a lot. I'm happy to do that.
Thirteen is in that same vein. Anybody else wants to add?
Guy, going back to 12 for a moment, if Jesse and or Jen are working on that, that they also consult with Tim, because he can help them out with the code and the laws regarding pump out and sewage disposal.
Okay.
Tim who?
Tim Jacobs, Harbor Master,
Okay.
the acting deputy harbor master.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the big important thing on that is that due to where the pump out boat gets its funding, we are not authorized or supposed to pump out commercial vessels because it's funded through recreational boating.
Yeah, and depending on the capacity, I mean, how many houseboats, if we allow them, and how many we allow them, whether we could have the capacity even to do it, even if we were allowed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can somebody take on the leadership on roll 13?
I'd like to nominate Jay for 12, 13, and 14, since they're all kind of related and I could help.
As long as I've got your help, I'm in.
Okay. Jesse, you want to give that up or you want to keep 11?
I mean, I think that these are all interrelated, and I'm
Yes.
happy to work with Mary
three of you.
and Jay and Tim and whomever else might help
Okay.
inform this.
Okay, well, we'll make that work.
I don't
Let's
need to
move
be
on.
the leader.
Yeah, in the impact of time, in the interest of time, sorry. We will move on. And we have 14. That's probably the same group, if I can dare say.
I think that's what we just talked about, Guy.
Yep,
They're
14,
gonna take
sorry.
on all
Yep.
that from 11 to 14, really.
Yep. Sorry, my screen, I'm trying to make my screen big so everybody can see. 15. Impact on residential marine vessels might have on boats, passage through waterways, etc. Anybody?
Yeah, hi, this is Bill Sutton. Can you hear me?
Yes, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, this is the issue that I think brought me to the task force that I was raising, and I mentioned it at our meeting a few weeks ago.
Yes.
I'm concerned about boats rather randomly anchoring through waterways, passageways, whether they're actually marked channels or not. In doing that, I'd like to lead on this, and I need help. I need help from the city, and I don't know where to talk to about existing and proposed mooring balls, and I don't know who is in charge of that, because I think that's a key component of this discussion. So does anybody know who?
I think, Bill, I think that's going to be Tim, who is the acting director right now, and that's where it's got to stay. But I think
I'm sorry, Tim, acting director of
Tim Jacobs, the acting harbor master, while Beth is out on medical leave. But Tim can help you with any information regarding the mooring balls or anything else. But if you take the lead on that, that'd be fantastic.
So
Just
also
to
the port wardens would also
Right.
probably want to weigh in on that. So we do.
and that's Robert.
Yeah. So the way it works is the harbor masters sort of enforce it. They also pick locations. They interact. We have so much embedded where DNR is in control of what the city's allowed to do. So then the harbor masters only once a year present the lat lawn and the number of the mooring ball to the harbor masters. And you know, we glance at them quickly because there's a fair amount of them, and then either 9 times out of 10, of course, approve them because they tend to be accurate and, more importantly, follow the ball and chain, no pun intended, that we have to DNR. So we're only this once a year. Yes, this list looks good, but we trust the harbor masters to really do the nitty gritty following of the rules that the DNR has prescribed we must follow.
I understand there's a waiting list. I just talked to somebody the other day. There's a waiting list for annual mooring balls.
There
Where
might
do
be,
I
but
get?
that has nothing to do with, I think, this topic and the whole purpose of all of us
Right.
being in this room.
Okay, well, I just wondered who's in charge of actually overseeing rental and rental of mooring balls and what the waiting list is.
The harbor master.
Harbor master.
Mr. Sutton, that's
So
all
Bailey,
done in our,
if you can
our
get in
office.
touch,
And
yeah,
I
get in
I'd
touch
probably
with
invite you
Tim.
to stop by.
I'll get you in
Tim, I'll
touch
be
with
talking
Tim,
to
Bill.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And Bill, I have some information for you as well on this topic from other people. So we'll send it out.
Okay, thank you.
Task 16, interest of time, we have 15 minutes. Any takers? Somebody, Jackie, you might have a little feedback. No? Yeah, there we go. Task 16, economic impact for addressing economic impact of marine, residential, and commercial vessels on the community, such as noise impacts and potential mitigations. We had put property owners of marinas and waterside. Any person wanted to hop in on this to lead? Remember, leading is just collecting and helping getting information. All right, I'm going to put pass and I'll come back and we'll find somebody. I'll go run around the city and just try to get up some interest on the matter. So number 17, analyze the impact of marine vessels as short-term rentals on nearby communities. So this is, I think, to the core of what this is all about. Anybody wants to lead on this? Because this is related again to short-term rentals and what it does to the communities and the folks next to those short-term rentals. All right, touchy check. Nobody wants to put their neck out. It's okay. We'll find a way and I'm just trying to make sure I can get as many as I can, and then we'll come back to them if need be. Review of existing laws and ordinance and regulations. A got dropped somewhere related to residential and commercial living on the water, including vessels. And from my perspective, there is only 1514 in the city code that is related to that. And there is a whole other thing about anchoring in the city code that I saw. Anybody wants to take a lead on this?
I'll go ahead and take the lead if no one else is married to it.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be lovely, Mike. I appreciate it. No, it just, and again, I'm hoping, and I'll repeat it at the end, that it's just collecting the information and putting something out, and then I'll put it out with your email on that subject matter for everyone to send things out, and you might get those and maybe collate them and put them together on task 19.
Yeah, would they be, what is it, 18, 19, and 21 and 22 all be kind of related?
I'm rereading because
Guy, I believe that to be true. And Mike, yep. I think all of that 18, 19, 20, and 21 are all related to the same sort of thing. Right. Once we drill down and find the laws and look at other municipalities and stuff, I think that's going to bring the answer right to the top. And I think we can handle all of those.
Okay. By the way, Guy, I'm Mike Thompson, not Mike Patrick. So I don't want to volunteer him for something that he didn't.
I'd be in trouble then. So yeah, and I see actually, if you look at I picked it up directly from the PDF. These 4 items were right under number 1 here, so I think that makes sense. So we got a big win here. All of a sudden, we got most of it done, and then we have a couple left. We got law enforcement. So task 23 we left out for now, because to me this is going to be done once we have recommendations. So I think we can skip 23 for now.
Guy, could I interrupt for a second? I think we should drop back up to 22, because while I think Mike and his team may have some comments, I would sure like to see Jesse and his input because it has water quality and waste disposal and habitat protection on 22. Is that all right, Jesse? Can you chime in on with Mike on 22?
Yeah, I'm happy to have those conversations.
And perhaps that Amy and Sarah can help Jesse with that. Amy's with the Spa Creek Conservancy and Sarah's with the Seven River Keeper.
Yeah.
I certainly will help with that.
Thank you, Amy.
Same for Sarah Caldas.
Thanks, Sarah.
All right, task 23, we're going to skip because that's going to come out of the recommendations, and maybe next month we'll deal with that. This one is the feasibility of implementing a slip fee in regards to all of these things. So anybody wants to take that one on? That's from a marina owners mostly.
I think this relates quite a bit to the task. I think it was 4 that I already raised my hand for, so I could probably do this as well.
Okay.
I think it's a lot like 4.
Yep. So I'm going to put that on. We're almost to the end. We have these other 2 we don't need. So having said what I said, we have a couple of minutes left, and I want to keep 1 or 2 or 3 minutes at the end and stick to the time that we have and see what we have where we passed. I'm coming back to task 2 for a leader if anybody else didn't get tagged with a task here that wants to volunteer on 2.
Guy, I'm happy to take that on, and because I will work with the Anne Arundel Advisory Group and get that information from Sage Group.
I got it. I put you on. I'm going down.
Hey, Rod, I'll email you a link to that so you can get it.
Okay, that'd be great. Thanks, Lex.
Yeah.
So I think we have only 2 passes left, 16 and 17. Anybody wants to lead these 2? I'm tempted to lead, but I have had already my fair dose of all of this, and I suspect I'm going to get a lot more once we get going with this. But I can push anybody to take 16 or 17 on as a leader and trying to get this done. Somebody who feels they're in there. Well, you guys are very, very tenacious in not taking this on. I'll leave. Go ahead.
This is Amy Clements. I do feel
Amy.
like the 17 should be somebody in the waterside community who, because they were the ones most concerned about this. That would not be me, but maybe Hamilton Gale, who's not on the call, would be someone.
What I'm going to do is ask via email. Hamilton, right? I will try that. I appreciate the help with that. And then how about 16? Any other recommendation? Anybody else? Is that in the same? Well, it's almost the same, isn't it? I'm going to put both of them for her because to me they're very much linked in that regard. And
sorry, this is Rick Nelson. If I might just ask on 17, is the thought that one is going to collect the views of kind of all the interested parties in these communities? I mean, I'm not sure what analyze the impact means. Again, if it's collecting anecdotal information or hard statistics.
Right. So I don't have an answer for you, Rick, to the extent of what it really says is, short-term rentals and if they should or should not be regulated and what it should entail. It seems to me that this is related to what other cities have done and what limitations are there. And there is a fair amount of cities who have either accepted house boats and house barges, Wilmington, Sausalito. I mean, they're established places where this is with regulations. And then there is other places who've done the opposite, Ocean City, Newport, Portland, Maine, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and I think maybe gleaning and getting information from those places, whereas what it would be. And so that's an area that I have done some research. I'll put myself here in case, but I'll see if I can pass it on to somebody else as well.
One thing to add to that, I'm just thinking about community impact. One of the things we do require now is parking to accommodate. So say a marina has 5 livable or houseboats for rent, they would require 10 parking spots.
Yeah,
yeah.
And that's in the house barges, and a houseboat is skipping out of that because the houseboat, as you define it, doesn't qualify under your 1514, quote unquote.
Correct.
That's one of the recommendations I think that this can go into. There's been, I think it was all done with the best of intent. And I think we just need to clarify and tell the council that maybe this definition needs to be refined and or create a new category and then put new regulations for this. That's where I'm at. So I think we have just about everything covered. Our next meeting is on June 11th. And I wanted to open up for questions or comments that people might have on this meeting. And if not, I've been thinking about how to open it up to the public in that particular regard. Any comments people want to bring up at this time?
Quickly, Guy, what time on June 11th?
It's 1 p.m.
1 p.m. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to suggest that we make that meeting longer. Any objections for that? I'm going to suggest 2 hours. I know it's long, but given that we're going to have to go through these, I suspect we'll need more than one meeting for this, but at least put one on. And I was going to talk with Rod and others about maybe schedule a couple of them, one a week for in June, maybe just to get through all of those and have a proper conversation among this group. And it doesn't mean all of us need to be there, but I might just grab a bunch of them and then do as many as we can in 1 or 2 hour sessions to formulate our response and hear from people as to what they would be.
Hey, Guy, Lex here. Quick question. For some reason, the original invites all show up as canceled on my phone. Are you sending out another, link invite?
That's a Tim question. The original invite, I think at one point was removed, but if not, I can forward you the one I have, Lex. And we only had this one and the one before that are still valid as far as I know.
Okay, yeah.
There was one that was done. Yeah, there was one that was done with Google Meets. That's probably the one that you have as canceled. That was done by Beth, but the city told her it has to be on Zoom because this is a public meeting, and that's why this was changed.
Okay, just so long as I can get the
yeah, we will get you the other ones.
Great.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
will do that.
Guy, just one question. Has there been a material, I apologize if I've missed it, whether it was different studies, for example, the Ocean City and why they prohibited house barges. Is there materials that have been sent out that we should all be kind of using as background information?
No, in the we don't have any further information. It is actually mentioned in the resolution itself. I would have to look exactly on which page.
Yeah, excuse me.
That's all there is.
Yeah. Okay, good. I just, so if there are things in the background that people find that could be shared with everyone, and then I know you're, yep.
That's the purpose of all of this.
Yep. And I know you're looking at how we can have, if you will, a share drive. So very good. Thank you.
We're going to do that. And I want to talk with the city first before we make it a public drive, because then that brings up a whole other set of things. So I'll sit down with a few and we'll talk to Tim how to best share all of our information in a place that's appropriate. Being in the IT world, I also know that opening it up to everyone can be quite a problem in that particular regard. So I have some suggestions on that. We don't want all of a sudden have people scream and shout in proper manners, etc. You know what I'm talking about.
Yep. Very good.
Any other questions?
I think I kind of had maybe this is for city staff as well, is if there are people who aren't showing up to all of these meetings and might end up, because there seems like there's a lot of people missing today. What is the procedure for replacing them on this that you guys usually follow? And then my second question would be if we did need an extension on the report due date, depending on how the next month goes, what's the process for requesting that? And I understand if this isn't an easy thing to answer.
I wrote them down, Mary. I wrote them down. In the interest of time, I'll take that on, and that's I think my role. And I'll let you know, and I'll go with Tim, and we'll go through it. I'm a stickler for meetings that start and stop on time, so it's 2:01. So I missed my line there. So I'm going to make a offer. I'm going to suggest that we adjourn. Anybody wants to second that?
Second.
All right, then I think we are done for today. I appreciate all the input from everyone. My email is in the list and is in the meeting. You can reach out to myself, and I'll speak for Rod as well. Do reach out if there's anything concerned. If we can, spend the next 30 days in really focusing on getting as much information as we can, positive, negative, everything we can, then we can start to formulate information for the council. And I think we don't make it a 90-day difficult summer. Let's try to get it out as much as we can in June, and then formulate our responses by mid-July. Thank you, everyone, and I wish you all a fantastic Wednesday.